Hello, 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 and welcome to Storytime with Faery Doctor. I am Halo Quinn, and I am today's Faery Doctor. Well, I'm a Faery Doctor every day, if you want to take it poetically. So, the Faery Doctor is in. Tell me what ails you, and I'll tell you a tale. And as you are not here in person with me, I am going to instead ask my doctor's bag for what medicine is required for those that come and stumble across this stream today and as a replay. Now, it is the case that historically, one of the places in which our magical folk, our cunning folk, our doctors, or at least those outside of the medical profession, would have learned their craft, their magic, their healing skills from indeed the fair folk. And what better medicine than the medicine of story? This is the medicine that I myself have learned from the fair folk and my dealings with them. And so this is the medicine that I share with you today. So I invite you, if you are here, to hold in your heart that longing, that desire, that whatever it is that you would like some medicine for. What is it that you most need? And I will rummage in my doctor's bag and see what emerges. I can see I'm not looking. I'm going to just see what comes out. The medicine for today, the medicine for you, the mythic medicine from Elfhame is defiance. The story that arises here is an old tale from Wales. Some might call it a myth, some might call it a legend, some might call it something woven from strands of magic and pre-Christian paganism, but it is one of my favorite tales. The story of the woman made of flowers. Now, her story begins long before she enters the scene, with a young prince who is put under a taboo, a fate, a binding, some might call it a curse. In Welsh it is a tunged, by his mother of all people. First, that he will bear no arms unless she gives them to him. Now his uncle, who is raising him, is a marvellous magician, illusionist, enchanter, Gwydion, the magician who knows the trees, and with his magic wand casts the illusions, casts the enchantments that tricks the young boy's mother into giving him arms, giving him weapons. She places him under another tunged, that he shall get no name unless she gives it to him. Well, without a name in the world, we are whole beings, yes, when we emerge into the world, but a name is something that is given to us, not something we can find ourselves. A name is in relationship, a name is in connection. A name, in his case, had to come from his mother. And his uncle, Gwydion, with his magic wand, yet again, through illusion and enchantment, elicited a name for the boy. Blodeuwedd, the fair one of the sure hand. He could throw so clear and sure that he would kill anything he aimed to. Well, his mother had been placing him under these for a reason, and she, at this point, was furious, not just at the whole situation that had led up to it, which I will not tell you today. You'll have to listen in another day to hear the tale of Arianrhod. But she had been tricked twice, once for a name and once for weapons for the boy, that he could become a man in the world, that he could wear her shame out where others could see it. And so she placed him under a third and final Tunged, a fate, a destiny. Some would call it a curse. She made it so that he would never marry a woman of human born. This was a bit of a problem because he liked the ladies. He also needed a wife in order to finish his transition into adulthood, into being the lord of the land that he was on, that he was supposed to become. And so it was a challenge that he was not able to marry a human-born woman. Again, his uncle, Gwydion, and his magic wand entered into the forest. But this time Gwydion invited help. His uncle, King Math, whose tale is another tale for another time, who came to help. The two of them gathered blossoms and flowers. They gathered the plants, the magic and the spirits of the wild. They gathered the beauty. Some say they gathered oak, blossom, meadowsweet, and broom. And they, with their wands, stirred up a spell, a conjuration, to turn those flowers into a woman. Beautiful she was. Her eyes the colour of green leaves, her hair golden flower petal coloured, her smile sweet as the scent of the broom. Her spirit, well, let's just say she was a little wild. But she had never been a human before, and so she followed where she was led. She followed Gwydion and Math to Lle Llawg y Ffes, under a destiny to never marry unless it was a woman not of human born. And this lady, this beauty, this woman, well, she was born of the flowers, of magic, of the wild, brought into our world and given to Lle, to this prince. For a while, she was happy. For a while, she was curious and exploring and enjoying the ability to walk where she would, the ability to see in ways that flowers cannot see, the ability to scent the air in a different way, to touch, to feel, to make love, to enjoy the light of the sun on her skin in a way that was not food but just pleasure. She and Lle, her husband, lived day by day. But she wondered if this was really where she wanted to be. Still, there weren't many choices for her at the time, and she stayed. Her name is telling. Her name was Blodeuwedd, of the flowers. Blodeuwedd. Every time she spoke her name, Every time someone called her name, they called to this spirit of the flowers. They spoke to this spirit of the wild, told them who she was. Time went by, and soon passed that her husband Clay needed to go somewhere for work, somewhere for some reason, and off he went with his entourage. Now, Blodeuwedd stayed home, keeping the house, keeping with her maidens, her ladies in waiting. And not too many days had passed when the sun was setting and there was a knock on the door, and she opened the door to someone not golden-haired like herself or her husband, but with dark, dark hair. Someone in leather and a bit muddy from the hunt. Someone who greeted her warmly and asked her if he and his men could come inside and stay, for they had found themselves lost on this land in their hunt, and they would surely move on tomorrow. She invited him in. She offered him hospitality and his men hospitality, because that is what was done. In this moment, she was still being oh so human, oh so proper. And then they got to talking. And here was someone who didn't take her for granted. Here was someone who didn't feel entitled to her. Here was someone that hadn't been given her, but had instead come and asked for her hospitality, requested her kindness. Not only that, but he was funny and kind and smart, and they got on so well. He loved the wild that she came from. He was a neighbouring lord, and he was there that night. And that night they began to fall in love. And the next day when he went to leave, she invited him to stay just one more night. And they stayed, he and his men, and they feasted, he and his men, and she and her ladies, and they got to talking. They got to falling for each other. Soon, the pair were having an affair. Now, this is the point that many people will tell you she was wicked for doing so. How dare she betray her husband? But that is to forget her name, Blodeuwedd. That is to forget her nature. Not human, but wild. She hadn't chosen to be there. She had ended up there. She had been taken and given. And so here, she got to make a choice. Now, sadly, at this point, there were no fault divorces, certainly not for a woman such as her. And Blodeuwedd could not see a way out of the place that she was being kept, could not see a way to escape. And she thought, and well, as flowers grow and die and become soil to grow again, she thought the simplest way to change things, the kindest way, the most natural way, would be for Clay to die. There was a problem. He was magical. His uncle Gwydion with his wand, and his great-uncle Math with his, had cast various protections and various spells to keep him safe. And so it was very, very, very difficult to kill him. When he came home, Blodeuwedd, knowing this, began to ask him how it could be done. My dear, you were away so long, I was worried about you. I was worried that perhaps you had been killed. And he laughed. Oh, no, don't worry about that. It's so hard to kill me. Okay. And she expressed that she was reassured. A few days later, she brings it up again. But my love, how is it difficult to kill you? You're only human, are you not? So yes, well, I'm only human, but my uncle and my great-uncle, they have cast protective spells, and so there has to be certain circumstances that are very unlikely before I could ever be in mortal danger. And she expressed that she was reassured. But he noticed that she was pensive, and a few days later he asked her, my dear, why are you worrying? And she said, please, could you tell me exactly how it could be that you could end up in such a situation that you would be killed, so that I can know for myself how difficult it would be? And he said, okay. Well, I cannot be killed indoors or outdoors. I cannot be killed on water or on land. I cannot be killed clothed or naked. And I can only be killed by a spear that has been carved on a year of Sundays while everyone else is at church. So you see, my love, it cannot be day or night. It cannot be many things. Are you reassured now? Yes, my love, I am. She sent word to her lover to begin work on the spear, carved only on Sundays while everyone else was at prayer at church. As the year went by, as the seasons turned, she began to express a little more concern, express a little bit more worry, and eventually I asked her, what is wrong, my love, my wife? And she said, I've been thinking, could you show me how it could be that you were neither clothed nor dressed, not undressed, neither indoors nor outdoors, neither on, he said, on water or on the land? Yes, that's what you said. And neither day nor night? And he said, okay, all right, if it will put your mind at rest. It just so happened that it was a year that had gone by. A year of Sundays had passed. When Clay went out to the bathhouse built on the edge of the river, and he went through the list of things. The bathhouse was open, and he stood on the edge of the bath, and he placed one foot on the edge of the goat. And he said, okay, so these are two things. I'm neither indoors nor outdoors, standing nor riding. He was wearing a net. I'm neither clothed nor naked. The river was there and the land was there. He's like, I am neither on land nor on the water. And as the sun set, it is neither day nor night. At that moment, from the top of the hill, hiding behind a rock, her lover threw the spear. It flew hard and fast and straight into Clay's thigh. Not his heart, his thigh. He, wounded, transformed into an eagle and flew away. And Blodeuwedd turned and summoned her lover. His name, Gronw. From that day on, when she referred to him to anyone outside of the household, she called him Clay. But in the household, oh, Gronw, he was. Time went by and the lovers were in love, and the days turned to nights and the seasons began to turn again. And Gwydion realised that he had not seen his nephew in a while, so he went looking for him. He went and knocked on the door and found that he was not home. He went and asked around and found that no one had seen him for a while, and he went hunting. He went seeking. He knew to look for strange things, weird things, odd things. And so when he heard of a sow that would normally amble out for her morning rummage through the forest, amble out to go and get her food, and amble back again at the end of the day, when he heard that she had started acting strange and the gates would open and she would dash out and she wouldn't come back until the very last minute, he knew here there was something. And if you've heard the stories of Merlin in Scotland, you may know his connection with the pigs. But Gwydion followed the sow fast to an old oak tree where it snuffled and snaffled and was eating rotting flesh. Gwydion looked up, and up in the tree was a sad, weak eagle with a wounded leg dripping injured flesh to the floor. Gwydion with an englyn, a song of magic, a charm particular to Wales, called the eagle down from the top branch to the next branch, from the next branch down to the bottom branch, from the bottom branch down to his arm. When it rested on his arm, sharp talons digging in, he cast a spell to reveal the illusion, the transformation, and returned the eagle back to his nephew, Clay, who he took home and nursed back to health. Once Clay was well, they went to his house. They went to his wife, Blodeuwedd, and her lover, Gronw, was revealed. Blodeuwedd and her ladies ran out the back of the house, up into the forest, up the mountains, and Gwydion gave chase, leaving Clay to deal with Gronw, who had pretended to be him for a while now. Clay said, "It's only fair that since you threw a spear at me, that I should throw a spear at you, and since we know from his name, Fair One of the Sure Hand, Clay would never miss." Gronw at first asked if any men would stand in his place, and his men, knowing the stories, said no. So Gronw steeled himself and said, "You have an unfair advantage, Clay. You have a magical hand of surety. Given that, at least let us even the odds. I did not kill you. Let us place a stone between you and I. Let you be up on the hill as I was, and I will be down by the river." And Chay said, "Done." Up he went to the hill with a spear. Down to the side of the river by the old bathhouse went Gronw. Chay waited until the rock was placed between them, just in front of Gronw. He took aim and threw the spear so hard it pierced through the rock, carving a perfect hole and straight into Gronw's heart, killing him instantly. That rock with the hole can still be seen today on the side of the river up north of here in Wales. And what of Blodeuwedd? Gwydion cast a spell as he ran after her, conjuring a lake. She got just past it, but her ladies in waiting turned back to see how close he was and fell into the water, drowning, returning to the spirits of the land, their life feeding the land, their souls joining the wood. And Gwydion, when he caught up with Blodeuwedd, said, "You love the sun so much. You shall now become an owl, that you never can look upon your loved one, that you never can bathe in the sunlight again." And with his wand transformed her into a tawny owl with their flowers, petaled feathers round their dark, the stripes dark and light. And the tawny owl from that day on was known by her new name, Blodeuwedd, flower face. And still at dusk and dawn she calls out a cry, haunting, mournful for her lost love. The medicine in this story, well, there is much. As found on the bottle, defiance. Defiance is sometimes about saying no to what you are told. Sometimes, and in fact more often, it is about saying yes to who and what you are. To who, pun not intended. Blodeuwedd, Blodeuwedd, Blodau. The flowers, Blodau that became Blodeuwedd, of the flowers that became lover, beloved, that became flower face, Blodeuwedd, the owl. All the way through, she was what she was, a spirit of the wild in different forms. Gwydion is an enchanter, an illusionist, into an actual living, breathing. Perhaps the breathing bit wasn't so hard because blossoms do breathe, flowers, plants do breathe. But at the end, when he turned her into an owl, he returned her to the wild. Different to how she'd been before, but how could she have not changed her experiences? And so her defiance, which is something that is attributed to her in many stories, many readings of the stories, people say she was defiant, she defied her husband. Her defiance was not about her husband, was not about the rules that were placed upon her, were not about the expectations, but was about being true to herself regardless, true to the spirit of the wild, of the flowers. And you'll notice throughout the names tell you who they are, what they are. And so this is why the medicine for you today is to consider the names by which you are known, the names that you give when you speak of yourself. Not just the proper names, like I am Halo Quinn, but also the roles, the descriptors. I am author. That tells you that I have books. I'm teacher. That tells you that I try to share knowledge, try to share skills, try to empower. That I am storyteller. I tell tales. But also, those names, those words we tell us. I am. When you say those words, who do you tell yourself you are? I am tired. How often does saying that really bring that essence to the surface, make you feel it? I am busy. How often does saying that make you feel more overwhelmed? I am happy. Reminding you of the joys. I am grateful. I am blessed. I am loved. You get to choose the names that you call yourself and the names that you share with others. You get to be defiant against whatever everyone tells you you should be, and defiant in standing up for who you are and who you choose to be. So your prescription, if you choose to accept, your medicine for this month. And imagine that I'm writing in a pad just for you a script. Choose your name. Take one moment, with tea, to say the name of your choosing that defies expectations and shoulds to yourself. Thank you for being here with me today. That little piece of medicine is a piece of magic, and if you reflect on it, it will tell you something about the magic of names and words. But for now, I must say farewell. For the doctor, well, my office must close for the night. Thank you for joining me. Do share in the comments your thoughts, your names, and which name it is you are choosing for yourself this month, in defiance of all shoulds and in defiance for yourself. If you would like to learn about story magic and join me for Crimson Circles working with embodiment and fairy circles at the full moon where we go and travel into fairyland, then check the description below for a link to the Enchanted Academy, where you will find classes, conversation, circles, and links to my books. But for now, may your path be enchanted and the stories always lead you true. Farewell.